Okay, so this video is going to be a little bit different than what I normally do. I've had a couple of you guys ask me on Instagram, and I got a message on TikTok about this, some on YouTube, and then also just in person. It's been asked multiple times, and I feel like I've answered these questions a lot, but it just kind of dawned on me that most of the time these questions have been asked, I've been answering in person. Some of you that follow the channel, that have been subscribers for a little while, want to know what's going on with the truck. Why aren't we seeing that in more videos? Why am I in vans all the time now? What's the deal with the Conqueror? And so it just kind of dawned on me, I needed to take a minute and just kind of sit down with you guys and catch you up on what exactly is going on, and then kind of the trajectory of the future, what I'm working towards on the channel. But now, if you are a new subscriber to Baker Overland, this video is probably going to be a little bit of a miss for you. I'll drop a link in here for a cool video for you to go check out. This one may not really be for you.
Have a great time.
Maybe after you've seen some more of my content, you come back and watch this one if you're interested in an update. But this is kind of a subscriber update, so to speak. Okay, so first things first. What happened to the truck? About a year ago, I re-geared the truck. I went to Nitro 529s. I realized that may seem a little aggressive for someone with 34-inch tires, but I've got a lot of weight on the truck. I pulled the Conqueror, which the dry weight is 3,800 pounds on that. When it's loaded down, it's more. So even with the tow package on the Sport TRD, that's just 6,800 pounds. I never got to my top gear. It just didn't have the power for it. And so I went ahead and went 529s, went Nitro 529s, and that was about right at a year ago. I was recently out on a trip with, it was actually, if you're familiar with Eagles Overland or Eagles Overlanding, you know, he recently did a trip where he proposed to his girlfriend. Congrats, Jacob. And he asked me to come along that trip, and I loved being there. But on that trip, I started noticing some strange noises. Well, had a little bit of an accident happen. Heard a big bam, and then started hearing this boom, 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 boom sound. Eventually, it got to the point where I was like, guys, I need to head home and figure out what's going on. So I got on the highway. I kept my speeds low, like not above 50. But eventually, on the highway on the way home, there was just this big explosion. I had to pull over, park the truck on the side of the road, ended up having to get help. Came back the next day. We flatbedded the truck out to a mechanic's place down in Conway. And that's where the truck has been ever since. And I'm missing it so much. All of my gears got completely destroyed. You know, we reached out to Nitro to talk about a warranty claim because the truck hasn't been, you know, it hadn't had the gears for even a year. And they require the setup specs from the shop that did the install. So I reached out to Come Get You Some Offroad, asked them for the setup specs, and they didn't have them. I was kind of up a creek, a little bit frustrated with the whole situation. Nitro wasn't going to cover it on warranty without seeing those setup specs. Come Get You Some didn't have them. And as we took apart that third member and started looking, we noticed that all the bolts that hold everything together, none of them had Loctite, and they had all started backing out, and two of them had backed out completely. And I'm pretty sure that when those backed out, it just completely destroyed all of them. We're not talking about metal flakes. They were completely chewed up. I reached out to Dwayne, told him what we had found. That's the guy at Come Get You Some Offroad, and unfortunately, they just weren't willing to admit any sort of fault. Didn't have the specs, so I'm having to pay for this out of pocket. Now, I hesitated to even kind of say this because I know it feels like I'm throwing someone under the bus, but I thought a lot about it, and you know, part of this channel is educational. You know, obviously, I'm really focused on the storytelling and the entertainment, but you guys also look to channels like mine to see what guys are running, what their experiences are, what products work well for them, what mods not so much or that were successful. And so I just was like, you know, if I don't tell people my experience, then they may run into the same issue. I don't expect things to be flawless. We know that there are manufacturing problems all the time across all brands, very established and the startup. We know that sometimes you get a dud, sometimes stuff isn't installed correctly and things go south. And that's why in this industry, customer service is like what we care about 100%. If something falls apart, are you guys gonna stand behind and help make it right? And if you don't, that's important information to know. So my truck has been waiting for parts. Now I did order a brand new third member. Got that coming. It's pre-geared to 529s. We're gonna rebuild the whole axle, reset up the drum brakes. When it's all done, it's gonna be a much beefier, better setup. I'm actually not going with the factory axle. I'm going with a more substantial version. And also, I wanna make it real clear, I'm not a mechanic. I know very little about this stuff. I pay mechanics to help me with my installs. I'm not a weekend wrencher. So I'm going to be limited on what kind of stuff I can tell you. I'm just kind of regurgitating what the mechanics have told me. So next week, the parts are supposed to be here. My plan is to head down to Conway and document some of that install and kind of walk you guys through the process. And we'll have a video that'll come out later on the channel about all that. So that's the situation with the truck. Also, I am replacing the bearings where my CV axle goes into my front differential. Those were a little bit loose, and you know, when you lift a truck, it just puts a lot of tension on those. So we figured it's a good time. We'll go ahead and replace that as well. So that's what's going on with the truck. All that is in the works. Now, what's the deal with the vans? Why do you guys see me in vans, sprinters, and transits all the time? Well, part of my job, I do marketing for various clients, and one of my favorite customers is a company called OZK Vans. Now, OZK Vans has two owners, and one of the owners is the founder of Backwoods Adventure Mods. That's Evan House. And, you know, if you're familiar with the space, you probably know Backwoods. They make killer products. I run a bunch of their stuff on my truck and love it. And so when Evan was starting OZK Vans, that was just right up my alley, and I reached out and I said, hey, you guys need to let me help you with the marketing, and they've allowed me to do that. So when I go out on the weekends, a lot of times I'm taking vans that they have that they keep in inventory, and I am shooting promotional content for them. But it just so happens that I can also take it out and camp out of them and shoot content for this channel as well. And so that's why you're probably seeing more of the van stuff. It's just because I have access to that, something that I do for work. Actually, here you go. You see that? I'm wearing a little OZK Vans hat right now. So yeah, that's the company, and that's why you're seeing all the vans. So that's the story with that. Okay, so there's the truck, there's the van. Let's talk about the Conqueror here for a second. The UEV 490 is a incredible camper. I love it. It's really everything that I hoped it would be. The problem is it's big, and even though it looks heavier than it is, it's still 3,800 pounds dry. And when you add 40 gallons of water, food, and gear, the thing gets heavy. And like I was talking about earlier with the tow rating of my truck and with the gear that's already on it, when you do the math, I'm right there at what you can safely tow. So it's just a little bigger, a little heavier than I want.
That's what she said.
You know, it's pretty nimble. With that articulating hitch, I've been able to pull it a lot of places, but I kind of feel like something smaller makes more sense. So I'm toying with the idea of selling the Conqueror right now. I haven't actively listed it anywhere. If anybody's interested in a good deal on a 490, let me know. But I'm also considering renting it through like Outdoorsy or something like that, RV Trader. Letting some people that want to use that also, you know, get a chance to do that. You can pay per night, take it out, and kind of test the waters with it. But that's kind of where I am on the 490. Love it. It's a killer product. I actually talked to Craig down at Outback RV on the phone today, and you know, kind of said the same thing. It's an awesome product. I don't regret buying it one bit. I'm not using it as much as I want to. And part of that is just because of the hassle. It's a little bit tedious to set up, and it's big and heavy. And so that's what's going on with the 490. Okay, last thing I wanted to update you guys on the channel, but stand by. I need a sip.
6.5 hours later.
I posted in the community section on YouTube a while back, kind of polling you guys to see what you wanted my next video to be. If you wanted it to go and look for an Indian burial site in a cave where Indians were buried, or continue the hunt for Erskine's grave. Both of these are part of our Ghosts of the Piney series. But I just wanted to poll you guys and see. And I did a poll on multiple platforms. The consensus was overwhelming, continue the Erskine's grave search. And as you know, if you follow my channel, that's not the next video that we released. I actually did a video on my bumper, and then I did a video on more, and now I've done the Indian burial site. So what's up? Why did I poll you guys if I didn't listen to you guys? Well, my intent was absolutely to do the Erskine's grave part 2 video, but two things happened. One of the guys that really wanted to go on that trip with me, that had helped me kind of put together a bunch of the details of where this might actually be located, his wife was delivering a baby. She had just delivered a baby, and so his timing for being able to pull away was not ideal, and rightly so. That obviously should take priority. So we kind of put it on hold, and then the plan was to get a trip last month, but my truck broke down and has been in the shop now for over a month, like a month and a half. To get to the place where we're going to need to go, I'm going to have a pretty off-road capable rig. I'd feel more comfortable at least, and I'm not going to take one of our brand new vans we're listing for sale down any sort of, technical trail and risk scratching it up. By the time my truck is repaired and ready to go, which is going to be end of next week, at this point we're into summer, and in the Ozarks, that means everything is grown up and green and lush and beautiful, but that also means finding a tombstone, which is just a rock with a carving on it, is going to be like next to impossible. So at this point, the Erskine's grave video, it's getting pushed into probably the fall, maybe the winter. Again, that's not really what I had planned, but sometimes with this stuff, you have to pivot when things don't go the way you want. And this was one of those situations where, the cards just fell the way they did, and it's where we are. That's an update on the truck. That is an update on the vans. Why you see me in that? Why aren't you seeing the Conqueror? And why haven't we done the Erskine's video? Those are the 4 updates I really wanted to hit today. Again, this is a little bit different video than my normal stuff on the channel, but I just feel like I owed it to you guys. For the few of you that had actually reached out and asked that I hadn't followed up with, I just thought, man, let me just put this in a video and drop this, and then that way, for those of you that are curious, you'll have the information. Next week, the Tacoma is back, and we'll be hitting the trails again, testing out those new gears. I'll have to go through a break-in period, so I'll have to be, careful with it there for a bit, but I'll be testing out those new gears, and then if all goes well, we should be back on the trails and getting back to our normal content on the channel. I really appreciate you guys as always. Thanks so much for watching, and I love you guys asking questions. Also, I wanted to say this real quick. If you happen to have a cool idea of something that you'd like to see me do on the channel, especially if you followed this long enough that you kind of know my niche. Like, I don't like to just wheel and camp. I like to actually go try to find something cool, whether it's just a cool landmark or a cool historical site, whatever. Now that you kind of know my niche, if you have anything that you want to recommend, I'd love that. And actually, the last video that we did the information about that location came from a subscriber like you, who reached out to me and he said he'd love to see us do a video on this site, requested that we not share the location, which we respected. And so if you have something that you'd like us to see us cover, something historical in the Ozarks in this region, man, let me know, and I would love to go check it out and put together something. And that stuff's just so fun to me. So I appreciate you guys. And as always, remember, I got to do it. I got to do it. Even though it's not the normal setting, I got to do it. Remember, the more you camp, the less deer the aliens abduct. You guys got to know that my wife laughs at me every single time I do this, and that's the only reason I keep doing it. I appreciate you guys. Have a good one.